We start our day heading north on the T20 and T30, using it as a proto-highway. Let me talk a little about the Corsican language. To me, it sounds like someone is trying to speak Italian with a heavy French accent, but that's not really scientific, so let's dive deeper. Obviously, I will quote lots of Wikipedia, so I can appear much smarter than I actually am. Corsican is classed as a regional language under the French law. It is almost universally agreed that Corsican is typologically and traditionally an Italo-Romance language. But its specific position therein is more controversial, of course. Corsican is related to the varieties of Tuscan from the Italian peninsula, and therefore also the Florentine-based Standard Italian. Both Corsican and Italian might be even, and in fact were, perceived as two sociolinguistic levels of a single language. Corsican and Italian traditionally existed on a spectrum, and dividing lines between them were blurred enough that the locals needed little else but a change of register to communicate in an official setting. Today's Corsican is a result of these historical adversities, which has morphed the language to an idiom that bears a strong resemblance to the medieval Tuscan, once spoken at the time of Dante and Boccaccio, and still existing in peripheral Tuscany. That was a great lecture. In the meantime, we have arrived at the Desert of Agriate, a small desert with beautiful views. Interestingly, it doesn't look like a real desert to me, whatever real means. Back to the lecture. Contrary to the popular belief, the world's biggest desert is not even covered in sand. Actually, the largest desert on Earth is Antarctica, which covers 14.2 million square kilometers. It is also the coldest desert on Earth, even colder than the planet's other polar desert, the Arctic, or your ex-wife's heart. Arrived at St. Florent, at the base of Cap Corse, the finger of Corsica, a jagged peninsula pointing upwards, north if you like, from the island, like a finger held up, signaling we still have something to say, or we just need one more coffee before we go. From here the road is one of the best biking roads in Europe, no doubt. A mix of wide and narrow curves, sweeping bends, grippy asphalt and magnificent views with mountains and endless sea. No real traffic, at least none in October. From St. Laurent to the tip at Barcaggio, it's less than 70 kilometers and goes through only a few settlements, but it can take an hour or an hour and a half easily, and not just because we will be constantly held up by the scenery. When the road turns around at the top, you have to make a small detour to actually reach the end of the peninsula. Frankly speaking, there is not much to do there. A little village, something to eat and drink, and let the scenery sink in before you head back south. Although the road until here was phenomenal, we wanted more variety. So we took the other road on the eastern side of the peninsula to Bastia. Somehow the feeling is not the same as on the western part. The beaches were bigger, the villages were more often, the road got crowded quickly, and soon we rode in the second biggest town on the island. Actually for the second time now since the ferry dropped us off here. For many people, the arrival and the departure are the only times they experience the city, but they miss out on so much. The lively promenade, the great restaurants and the friendly people. Yesterday we have already tried the salty crepe. Now it was time to try a sweet one. There were endless possibilities, but we were going for a special, which is not common back at home. One with chestnut. We were already collecting it from the roadside. It was just logical to try it out if it's worth our time or not. Should we continue the harvesting? I have to confirm, it did. So we also bought a few cans of this sweet paste from the supermarket on our last day to bring the taste of the island with us for the long and cold winter.
Oh, ça y est, tu vois, c'est. S'il vient là, on se prend un coup, on rigole. Thank you.
Mont Pigno is towering above the city, now covered in clouds. But I remember, the view from up there is magnificent. Imagine the city lying at your feet, the sandy beach running to the south. The giant ferries look like small toy boats in a bathtub, in a very big bathtub. Sadly, luck was not on our side. The thick mist and clouds covered the top of the mountain and showed no intention to clear up anytime soon. It was even hard to see the radio tower a few dozen meters from us. I'm including some old photos for you, so you can imagine what should be there. I didn't want to descend back into the traffic of the city, so we stayed on the inner part of the island, narrow back roads with hardly 2 lanes sometimes. We knew we didn't have much time left before the sun finally sets, and cold comes with the darkness. And don't forget Jon Snow, the night is dark and full of terrors. Still, we just had to stop at the Église Saint-Michel de Murato. If I got this right, I deserve a medal or something. This Byzantine polychrome little church is dated back to the 12th or 13th century. The green and white color stones assembled in stripes and like an irregular checkboard. These are similar to the prestigious buildings of Pisa and to many churches in Tuscany. The church has remarkable naive motifs that can be found on its walls and which are astonishing in their fantasy and variety. The modillions represent characters, men and women, as well as various animals and plants. The building is surrounded by a frieze formed of small arcades with bases sculpted with various motifs also, sheets of wheat, coins, severed hands, scissors. Maybe there's a connection between the last two. After this cultural bypass, we were really running out of time, but we still had a road to conquer before we could join once again the transient road and chase the fleeing light, hoping the lurking darkness will cover our maneuvers and license plate. The sun was rapidly falling back to the sea. It was right in front of us, burning out our eyes, robbing me of any chance of seeing in color anytime soon. At one point, I had to completely stop on the roadside. Even through the sunglasses, I got so blinded, I wasn't even sure where the road was. I couldn't see if I were heading for a straight section or a sharp corner without any railing, which actually occurs here quite often. Next time, we will visit the capital of the island, Ajaccio, the hometown of Napoleon and a historical site right out of the Stone Age.